So I think we can agree that the impressions of Splatana Wiper when it was first revealed were pretty low from both casuals and competitive. To be fair to casuals, it looked too much like a melee weapon for people to understand its role at first, and to competitive players, Stamp needed about 8 billion buffs just to function properly.
No, I didn't die! Why didn't I die?
And hey, even in my own team, the only one to have a top-level Wiper player, we still didn't let him play it for around a month and a half to try to focus on more standard comps. But after that, we decided to experiment with it and give it a real shot. After running it in comps for over a month against pretty much every top-level team out there in the Western scene, I want to talk about why I believe this weapon is not just massively underrated, but a secret top tier that fits super well as a quick respawn weapon. If you enjoy this analysis, be sure to subscribe, and I'll be covering more weapons in the future. Let's get started. So, I mentioned quick respawn in terms of what Wiper's role is. So let's talk about what exactly that is, because it's not something new. Tetras have been doing a full quick respawn build and playing really aggressively for around 4 years now, but why exactly do they do that? What's their job? Well, their role is basically to go die. Nah, I'm serious, that's actually their job, like the whole match. One time a Tetra died 22 times in a top level scrim and they still won. Oh, the comments are flaming the Tetra user. Okay, I might need to explain this. Basically, a quick respawn weapon is a highly mobile and threatening weapon that will approach from side angles and try to get behind enemy lines, or be in positions that force the enemy team to break their line of defense in order to deal with you. The whole point of this is because the enemy team has to dedicate a lot of resources to shutting you down, it creates an opening for your other 3 teammates to start to immediately push in, and even if you go down, you have so much quick respawn that you can immediately jump back in and help win the team fight. In a solo environment, this might seem a bit strange, but in competitive play, teams are very good at controlling space, and it requires resources, often specials, in order to break that line. This is also only really common in high-level play, mainly in Japan, because 1, the Tetra user has to know exactly where to go, or else they'll end up not actually breaking the enemy line, and then you just get feeding. And 2, the window created by the Tetra user is pretty small, so you need a very coordinated team who is ready to move almost immediately. That being said, while difficult, this strategy is effective, and we've seen both quick respawn comps like the one we've used, or teams that just run a quick respawn Tetra with a standard meta comp, you know, Splash-O-Matics. So what I'm gonna do today is compare Wiper and Tetra's stats to not just show that Wiper is really good at this role, but that it has many reasons to be used over Tetra that are especially relevant in the current environment. And right now, Tetra is considered a top tier weapon, so if I can argue Wiper is at least equal to Tetra, if not better, then it should also be seen as a top tier. First up is one of the overall most important stats, mobility. For Tetra, it has great advantages with its dodge rolls that allow it to both move and shoot at the same time while going through enemy ink. This isn't perfect though. First of all, the rolls require that you remain grounded, meaning against things like Wave Breaker or in general terrain that requires you to jump to move across, Tetra has much more limited mobility. And 2, the rolls come with a sizable amount of end lag, meaning there are down times where the weapon can be punished, especially by splash. Wiper doesn't have as good mobility through enemy terrain since it can't walk as fast while going through it. However, with the recent buff, its horizontal slash now paints considerably well, giving it basically shooter mobility and a fast option in enemy ink, which was its biggest problem pre-patch. On top of that, Wiper has the fastest base strafe speed in the game, which works both while charging, firing, and going for charge slashes. And on top of that, the charge slash has a dash to it for an added option of movement. If this was pre-patch, the mobility through enemy ink would have given Tetra the win. However, now that it can move very easily with its horizontal slash, I believe this is overall a tie, as Wiper is much harder to punish. Next up is kill time. Tetra not only can do this from better range than short range shooters, even if only slightly, but it's fairly consistent, reliable, and fast. Wiper, on the other hand, while it does have a one-shot if it gets up close, for the most part does not have a fast way to kill the opponent. It's not super slow by any means, but it does require a bit more commitment than Tetra does. Overall though, I think this is a pretty easy win for Tetra. Next up is the range. This not only matters for killing, but for painting. And Wiper, while having a very close range value in terms of its horizontal slash versus Tetra, clearly has more with the charge slash and can use it to play under ledges. Pretty simple category, Wiper takes it. Next up is ink efficiency. Another not super important category, but this is around a tie. Tetra standard fire is the most ink efficient, but that's only if you're not using dodge rolls, and it's not by much. Wiper's charge slash is a bit less ink hungry than the normal Wiper slashes, but not by that much either. And overall, if Tetra's using a moderate amount of dodge rolls, it has about the same as Wiper using a moderate amount of both attacks. So yeah, even. Next up is damage per second, and mainly this category is relevant in terms of dealing with HP specials or the Rainmaker shield, especially in a meta filled with crab tanks and a bit of Booyah Bomb. Tetra has pretty solid damage per second to objects, not being bad by any means. Yeah, I'm just kidding. It's Wiper easily taking this one. We do not need to drag out this category. Splatanas have insane object damage multipliers that not only make them really good at it, but even the charge slashes are great at breaking objects, meaning that Wiper doesn't even need to go close to people. It can do this safely under a ledge, making it one of the best options at dealing with crab tank and Booyah Bomb in the entire game. This gives it a clear win in one of the most important categories. Next up is paint output. Tetra is pretty mediocre in this aspect, while Wiper, oh yeah, the patch happened. So now this weapon has good painting range, good overall paint output with its mobility, and it's 20 points for special cheaper. These weapons aren't often going to be painting, but having good paint is a very relevant strength, and it's nice to know if Wiper does need to do something like stall a zone or get turf control, it has the ability to do that, while Tetra absolutely doesn't. Next is a weird category of super jumping in. I feel the need to mention this because Tetra's ability to do 4 dodge rolls upon landing on a weapon that will be super jumping in a lot because it's a quick respawn weapon is really relevant. Wiper's isn't as bad because it can charge slash dash upon landing and just normal charge slash for a one shot if someone's up close, but yeah, this is easily Tetra's favor. So I want to talk about weight class. Normally this would just be a point in the mobility factor for Wiper because being lightweight just makes you slightly faster at all times, mostly relevant when swimming. But I'm pointing it out in this category because it's also relevant to gear. Mainly it gives you access to Ninja Squid, something Tetra Dooley can't really run without sacrificing its speed too much, but Wiper can. Basically, Wiper will by default be moving slightly faster than Tetra and have access to a few more gear options. Second to last is the sub weapon, and while Auto Bomb is not a bad sub, and it is very cheap, which is nice for Dooley, it's definitely Torpedo that's better. Having a combo option to make up for the kill time weakness and being able to throw it to distract and force even more resources from enemies, especially being able to throw Torpedo in sides or behind people where it's even more effective, is just overall better. And finally is the special. Tetra is not going to be getting a lot of Reef Slider, and Reef Slider is not great right now. It does a little bit better damage to objects after the patch and cannot be parried, but it still has an unbelievable amount of startup and end lag, making it super punishable, and even using it to try to break some form of object often puts you in way too vulnerable a situation. I think the best use case for Tetra is honestly just to stall keeping yourself alive or move behind enemy lines through certain chokes, but even that is limited. Wiper has Ultra Stamp, which while not a great special either, is leagues better than Reef Slider. The rush mode is still vulnerable, but at the very least, since you're at the sides or behind people, you're more likely to be fighting weapons that can't shred it, and it's at least at a more uncomfortable angle, which can be useful for stalling, but mainly this is nice against HP specials. Just having a hammer at the ready, something we previously established it can do very often, means you can't panic stuff like Crab Tank and Booyah Bomb without getting killed most of the time. Again, exceptionally useful in a meta where there are mostly HP specials being ran against you. On top of that, the throw mode is actually good, giving you a way to damage objects or threaten to kill people, and at the very least you can quickly pop stamp and throw it to get another torpedo in a fight. Easily Wiper favor. Alright, that was a lot of stat comparisons, and listen, I don't think Wiper completely outclasses Tetra. It's more mobile than enemy ink and has kill power, which is very relevant depending on how you build your comp, and for a lot of teams that's going to be more relevant to your playstyle. However, Wiper has a ridiculous amount of strengths to play around, being a bit more range, the ability to play around corners, a better sub and special, significantly better object damage, versatility with its paint output. It just has so many things it's good at, and all of them are relevant, especially in the current meta. In my opinion, I think these strengths mean Wiper is slightly better than Tetra overall, while Tetra still has reasons to be used, and I think at the very least, Tetra players should look into playing Wiper alongside it. But hey, that's just what I think. Let me know what you guys think about Wiper in the comments, and maybe what other kit you want to see on this weapon, and I'll see you guys next time.